Hello, this is Mr. Knowles, and this mini lesson is focusing on classifying triangles, which we're learning about in math class right now in our geometry unit. We've learned that you can classify triangles in two ways. One way is by their angle measure, and the other way is by the length of their sides. This lesson is going to focus on the angle measure. And before we get started with actually talking about the different kinds of triangles that you can classify by their angles, we need to understand how to measure an angle. And we do that with a protractor, which we've been learning about how to use in class. And I can demonstrate that with this virtual one, hopefully. So an angle measure is you have a straight line, and then you would measure an angle with a protractor, kind of like this. So right now, with this virtual protractor, I created a 90-degree angle, which is also called a right angle. I can make the angle smaller. Let's make it 40. And that would be called acute. Any angle less than 90 is an acute angle. And any angle measured greater than 90, let's go to 120 here, that's considered an obtuse angle. And knowing the angle measure and the vocabulary that goes with the angle measure is going to help you classify the triangles because they use some of the same vocabulary words. So let's get started. So you can group triangles by the size of their angles. So acute triangles, all three angles are acute. So let's draw one. I can draw an acute triangle on this small dot paper we've been using in class. And it might look something like this. If I were kind of to draw it, that would be acute because all the angles are less than 90 degrees. I could measure a triangle that's been already drawn to see if it has three angles less than 90. See if I could do that. So I believe I have an acute angle here, or acute triangle here. So let me get my protractor out. I'm going to pull it out. And what I need to do, we talked about lining up, we call it the bullseye. We line it up right here in this corner, making sure everything's lined up on that 0 line. And then I'm going to measure this angle here. And this corner is 70 degrees. 70 is less than 90. So I know that one is acute. I'm going to put the bullseye over here in this corner. And I'm going to have to flip my virtual protractor here. And I'm going to measure this corner. And that one's about 70 as well. If I wanted to measure that third corner, I'd have to see if I can do this. Rotate my triangle. You can do this by moving your paper. And then take my protractor, put it there on the corner. And then I'm going to have to bring it down. It's less than 70. So it's definitely acute. Looks like it's about 39, 40. So this triangle is an acute triangle because all the angles are less than 90 degrees. So let's move on here. Our next one, we got right triangle. A right triangle has one angle measure that is 90 degrees, or we call it a right angle, which would be a nice perfect corner like you'd see in the corners of windows and doors and things like that. So this would be a right triangle. These are probably the easiest ones. So I have a right triangle right here, I believe. It looks like it just because of this corner here. I'm going to bring out my virtual protractor and just double check. Put it right, the bullseye right in that corner. Measure that angle. It's 90 degrees. You don't really have to measure the other two angles because by the definition, one angle in the triangle is 90 degrees, so that is a 90-degree triangle. One thing I'd recommend doing is, since you measured it, you know it's 90, I'd make a habit of putting this little, call it a little box there. And what that box means is that it represents a 90-degree angle. I'd make a habit of putting that there and understanding what that little symbol means, because you'll start to see that as you move on through school. All right, last but not least, we have obtuse triangles. And an obtuse triangle, one angle is an obtuse angle, meaning it's greater than 90 degrees. So if I were to draw one, it might look something like, maybe like that. And that would be your obtuse angle right there. Let's see if I have one here that we can measure. Okay, let me get my virtual protractor out, bring it out. And I'm going to focus on this one here, because to me it looks obtuse. I'm pretty confident that it is, but we'll double check it. So I'll put my bullseye right there, making sure that zero line that is on that line of the triangle. I'm going to have to flip my virtual protractor around. And I'm going to open up this all the way. I've gone past 90, and it looks like it's about 112 degrees. By definition, this triangle has one obtuse angle that's greater than 90. That's all I really need to measure with my protractor, because that's all I have to do. If it has an angle measure greater than 90, it's obtuse. So that's an obtuse triangle. So what I'd like you to do, you should have a worksheet that goes with this, where the top of the worksheet has your definitions, kind of like this, and some boxes below. And what I'd like you to do is draw some more examples of acute triangles, right triangles, and obtuse triangles on the front side. And then on the back side, you're going to have some pictures of triangles like this one. And I want you to take your protractor out and practice measuring the triangle's corners and tell me if they're acute, if they're obtuse, or if they're right triangles. So that angle measure of that one is 82 degrees. And if I were to go over here, I'd have to flip my virtual protractor around. And the angle of this one is about 41. And then you're going to have to spin your protractor or move your piece of paper around to get that third angle, pretending I have a piece of paper here. And then try to measure that third angle for me if you can. That one looks like it's about 81. Doing the best you can. And practice measuring the angles of the triangles on the back side. Write the angle measure inside each corner, and then tell me if it's acute, right, or obtuse. And turn that in when you return back to class. I hope that this lesson's been helpful, and definitely check out the other way to classify triangles in my other online lesson.